this? What is this? There's color everywhere. What's this? What's this? There's white things in the air. Hey y'all, I'm Madeline Monahan, but you can call me Maddie. Welcome back to my channel, and I'm back. I'm done with finals. I am free from school for the summer. I'm just really happy this semester is over, if I'm being completely honest. My brain is still a little bit jumbled and a little bit fried, and also doesn't help that I'm filming this at like 7 o'clock in the morning. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about childhood inspirations, stories that inspired me to really start writing my own. And I thought, because we're talking about your childhood and, you know, things that inspired you, I thought it would be fun to incorporate a little activity that I actually did not get to do very much when I was a kid, but have been on kind of a kick on lately and am looking at 2 of them now. So I am going to make a Y-Wing from Star Wars, because why not? Let's build some Legos and talk about childhood inspirations. Sounds like a good Saturday morning to me. Alright, first things first, I gotta open this darn thing. Alright, so, have our instruction manual, we got our bags. There are only 4 bags, which is not as many as I thought they were going to be, which is good. I've never built this one before. I built a TIE fighter. It's actually sitting right here. I put it on my Instagram. I built a TIE fighter, and then I helped build an ATST. And then I have 2 more Legos coming in. One of them is my absolute favorite ship of all time, a TIE silencer. It's supposed to get here today, and I'm so excited. I don't know why I love TIE silencers so much. I just think they look so cool, and I wish more people had them. If I was in Star Wars, that would be my ship. It would be a silencer. So we're gonna start with number 1. Clearly, start at the beginning. So first up, we're making Poe, and we're making a stormtrooper guy. I'm guessing the guy with the 5 o'clock shadow is Poe. As we are starting to build, I put his upper body on backwards. I'm going to talk about my first story, if I don't drop Poe's head. Well, the first story that I put on my little list of things that inspired me when I was a kid was Robin Hood. I have always been a huge fan of Robin Hood. It's probably the only story that I really know by heart and could recite. Maybe not recite like word for word, but just like really lay down the story. There was something about Robin being the outlaw but also being the hero that I really enjoyed, and I loved the villains in it. And it's interesting because when you're a kid, you watch it or you read Robin Hood and you're like, oh, this is like a good guy versus bad guy story, which it is, but the older you get, the more you realize there's actually a lot more to it than you originally thought. But I also loved like just the romance of it. I loved Maid Marian. You know, I never saw a version of Maid Marian that I didn't love. Given the time period, she doesn't do much most of the time. In most versions of her that I've seen, she doesn't do a whole heck of a lot given the time, but she is a very smart, she's very intelligent, and she, in a lot of versions, she sort of becomes, you know, Robin's eyes in the palace, so she's the spy. I also really enjoy Robin Hood because it is a story that takes place really in one locale. It keeps it exciting. It doesn't make it boring. And I just think it's interesting that you have this man who is, you know, he's gone to fight for his country. He comes back and he still has to fight for his home. But you have all these really fascinating characters who kind of come in and join him along the way, and it's just, to me, it's very clever to take this place that many would not necessarily deem interesting and turn it into something exciting and make you want to live in Sherwood Forest and go on these adventures with Robin and his merry men. Robin Hood was kind of the first story that really got me interested in writing stories. It was because I just wanted to live in the world that they were living in. I wanted to go on these adventures. however small or however grand they were. Sucks that they can't make a good movie for it. I mean, the last good live-action Robin Hood movie that came out was in the 1930s. I have not seen a good one since. Alright, so here is the first part done. I have no idea what part of the ship this is. Oh, this is like the back end kind of the ship. Okay, well, this is the back end of the ship. Woo! Now we're gonna go on to bag number 2 and talk about my second childhood inspiration, because we can't say the words childhood inspiration enough in one sentence. Sentence? That was more than 3. That was 3. Y'all, I'm so brain fried. It's really bad. Alrighty, so what do we got? So the second story that was really a huge inspiration to me as a kid was Les Miserables. I have been watching Les Mis my entire life. I was a month or 2 old when the 10th anniversary concert came out. And they showed it on TV, and I've just been watching it ever since. I know every word to every song, even though my mom didn't want me to know every word to every song. It was my introduction to kind of sadder stories. Les Mis is, I think, a little bit different because everybody dies, you know? I don't think that's a spoiler to say everybody dies in Les Mis, because it's kind of what it's known for, is everyone dying. And so it was kind of the first story that I was introduced to where I had to say goodbye to multiple favorite characters while scarring a little bit as a kid. I actually found that interesting because it added a whole new layer of emotion to a story that I didn't know you could have. Plus the music is amazing. Like, music's so beautiful. There was no real villain to the story. You had an antagonist, but you did not necessarily have a villain. Oh, I have to build this twice. Up until then, I had only really seen stories about the good guy versus the bad guy, and the good guy wins and the bad guy was bad just because they could be. Les Mis sort of challenged that, because the 2 main characters, especially in that, Jean Valjean and Javert, they are both, there's a lot of ambiguity to their characters. Javert sort of brings out the more violent man in Valjean, whereas Valjean sort of brings out the, you know, more, I don't want to say relaxed, but more thoughtful man in Javert. And so it's just interesting to watch the 2 play off of each other. And as a kid, you know, I didn't necessarily catch all that. That was stuff that I noticed as I got older. When I was a kid, I just liked watching it for the music. That there's a lot of moral ambiguity to these characters, to all of them, really. And I just thought that was interesting. I think that's where my love of, like, that ambiguous, like, character ending thing sort of came from, where it could be one way or another way. No one is a clear defined line in that. Everyone's a little bit outside the box a bit, and they have to make another one. So we're going back to the beginning. In the rain, the pavement shines like silver. It will always be one of my favorite stories, no matter how sad it can get. Les Mis is something that continues to, you know, to inspire me. And for as much as there is sadness in this, there's a lot of, you know, hope, and you know, it's people fighting for freedom, and it's just got a lot of good feelings to it. Even though so much sad things happen in it, there's a lot of happiness that still occurs in it. It's a story that shows, even in the darkest of times, when the world really does seem like it's on fire, there's still joy in it, and there's still reasons to be hopeful. I think that's really the fun of Les Mis. Oh god, where do these go? Oh, I'm holding this backwards, hold on, okay. We have a T, we have the Titan's Tower. It's looking a little bit more like a Y-wing, right? This is actually gonna be a lot bigger than I thought it was gonna be. Stop. Let's talk about the third story that really inspired me as a kid, and that is none other than Star Wars. What I just always loved about Star Wars was just how creative it is. I mean, ships and planets and creatures and all these things that I never would have imagined in a million years now feel so real to me. When I was watching it as a kid, it was so unique because there was no other movie that I watched that was like it. It was completely new, and it introduced me to this whole idea of stories can take place in other places. It doesn't all have to be in one city, on one planet. You know, it could be anywhere. It could be in another galaxy, it could be on another planet, it could be in another dimension. It really did feel like a trip out of Earth and into the rest of the universe. It was like the one movie that everybody could agree on for family movie night. I have memories of running out of my room, jumping over the back of the couch, and just sitting there and watching Star Wars with my family. So for me, Star Wars was always something that's happy, and it's fun, and it's about family, and it's about being with family. That's just why I hold it so near and dear to my heart, is because I have just so many fond memories watching Star Wars with my family, with my friends, with my boyfriend who's now my husband, because our first date was going to see a Star Wars movie, and I've dragged him to the Star Wars movies ever since. And that's why I love them so much, because it's always something I enjoy, and I enjoy it with the people I love. That in of itself to me was an inspiration, because it got me thinking, I want to write stories like this. I want to write stories where people are happy and excited to read them and watch them with their families, and it's something that they want to read and watch with their families. It can be everything. You can have those sad moments, but you can have those really lighthearted, fun, adventurous times as well. And that was just the joy of Star Wars. Star Wars introduced like a whole different style of action to me, because up until that point, you know, I watched a lot of movies with my dad, and my dad likes a lot of those kind of like macho guys, like Stallone, Willis, Schwarzenegger type guys, and like their shoot 'em up movies. So for me, the only weapons I'd ever seen as a kid were like, you know, guns and sometimes swords if we were watching a pirate movie. For Star Wars, they were blasters, they were lightsabers, and the lightsabers just kept getting cooler and cooler as, you know, as these movies came out. I know everybody didn't like it, but when the Force Awakens trailer came out and Kylo Ren walks in and he lights his crossguard lightsaber, I literally had the same reaction to Darth Maul and his double-edged lightsaber. I flipped. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Like, the creativity for Star Wars was never ending, and I just loved everything that they, you know, could introduce in terms of like ships and weapons and planets and creatures and characters. And it really does inspire you to think out of the box, and, you know, not every color has to be inside the line. You can go way outside of it and still produce something beautiful and something fun and something that people enjoy. And you know, that's to me just always been the beauty of Star Wars. And I lost my pieces, hold on a second. There were so many just elements to it, and, you know, to tell a fun story and to do it in such an, you know, such a creative way, that was something I wanted to do too. I think that was always inspiring to me, that someone could create something as impactful as Star Wars has become, because it is a multi-generational, worldwide phenomenon. The idea that someone could create something like that, I think, is just so cool and so inspiring. So thank you, George Lucas, for creating Star Wars. Oh, I see. Oh, it's magic. I don't know why I'm singing everything I do. Maybe it's because I'm just sitting here building Legos. Look at that. We got little feet on it. It's got its little gun up top. Cockpit is completely done. This is turning out really cool. I really like this Y-Wing. These are actually Steven's favorite ships in Star Wars. He loves Y-Wings. So hopefully he doesn't get mad at me that I'm building this and he's not. Now for number 4. Since we are on bag 4 of this Lego set, we're going to talk about the 4th story. And I have talked again a little bit about this before. This story is Lord of the Rings. And really, what can I say about Lord of the Rings that I haven't said already about Lord of the Rings? By far just one of the most amazing films I have ever seen in my life. One of the most amazing film trilogies I've ever seen in my life. Much like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings was something that, you know, I had never really seen before. It was never something that I would have imagined in a million years. This Middle Earth with these elves and dwarves and hobbits and orcs and urukai and ents. It's also, you know, the reason why I love film, and how I got into film was I wanted to know how these worlds were created, how these characters, how these creatures were created. It does expand your horizon as a kid to kind of the possibilities of storytelling and writing. Is when you watch these movies that are more based in fantasy, you really get the idea of, like, you know, you could go anywhere with your story. Literally, you could go to any place with any person, any creature, any creation, you know, anything that comes to mind, you can create into something really cool and unique. Lord of the Rings was definitely my epiphany movie for why I wanted to get into film and filmmaking, because there was just so much in it that went into the production of these films that I was fascinated in, like the amount of prosthetics and masks and makeup that they had to do, you know, the mixture of practical and computer generated effects. You know, it was just such a good balance of the two that, you know, it really does create that illusion that these things are actually there. I tease my mom a lot because I would often say, like, you know, you'd let us watch things like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and Indiana Jones when we were kids, but things like Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, even Avatar: The Last Airbender for the longest time, my parents wouldn't let us watch those. But Die Hard was our Christmas movie. Mom took us to see Lord of the Rings, Return of the King in theaters. We also saw Revenge of the Sith in theaters. My dad thought Troy was a family movie. So we're watching these movies that aren't necessarily for kids, you know? But we weren't allowed to watch shows that were geared more towards kids. I always make fun of my mom for that, like she let us watch Lord of the Rings, which is really, let's be honest, a very violent trilogy. In reality, I'm actually really glad that she let us watch Lord of the Rings, because if she hadn't, I wouldn't have the amount of inspiration that I have now. And I don't think I would love these movies as much. I think I still would love them, but they wouldn't have really been the thing that kicked off my love for filmmaking and storytelling. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Lord of the Rings. So thank you, Mom, and thank you, Peter Jackson. If Mom ever watches this. I don't think Mom watches my videos. La, 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 look at that. Oh, that looks so cool. I accidentally fired one of the laser thingies and it's over there somewhere now, but oops, I'll find it later. Thank you guys so much for watching. I had a lot of fun building this, actually. It was a little tedious at times, but it was a lot of fun, and it's just such a unique ship. It's really cool. Look, it even has, hold on, watch this, watch. It drops bombs. I had a lot of fun making this and talking with you guys about the things that inspired me to start writing and to get into filmmaking. I'm curious to know what y'all were inspired by, what stories, what movies, what ships. It's just a lot of fun to talk about things that you grew up loving. I'm just so immensely proud of myself for building this freaking ship. It's such a cool ship, I love it. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye! I gotta find a place to put this now. I don't know where the heck this is. I don't know where this is gonna go.